understand these products, so the demand for them will increase. Then we also went into agritourism. Through agritourism, the more people that visit you, you are going to impact those people to go back and do the same thing. Our turnover here throughout the year, I think we make over 40 million.
When you look at the female youth, they have so much gone into management of livestock because it doesn't require them to move every time.
I rear animals like goats and pigs. So I feel that really my life is moving on, and I'm able also to pay school fees for children on behalf of my husband, even support him in other family activities.
We have realized that as we unlock opportunities and we diversify, we create more opportunities for youth to join into the agricultural value chain. For example, we have gone in processing, and processing means you get more grain. As you get more grain, then the youth tap into the supply chain. As we are moving this initiative of youth, we have seen some lessons on the ground. Like practically, we have seen that some partners, when they talk about unemployment, they only focus on those that completed university. Yet, when you look at agriculture itself, it has many opportunities for those that never completed the tertiary institutions. In fact, when you go to our villages, the unemployed youth that we are talking about, the big chunk, is in those that never completed the university. And surprisingly, when the partners are now planning to support youth in agriculture, they are focusing only on those that complete the university. So it creates a very big challenge, because for those who completed the university, they have access to at least some decent job, but the ones that never completed the university are the most vulnerable in that category of unemployment.
The Nokia Youth Platform has been able to help youth acquire skills and knowledge, and they've been able to exploit opportunities within the agricultural sector for them to earn incomes. Averagely, a youth can earn about $10 to $15 daily by engaging in each of these activities. And for us, we think this is decent. And when youth get into such arrangements, then they will be the entrepreneurs for the future. So we are grateful for Nokia Youth and for being part of this, and we encourage other development partners to come on board and support our youth in this aspect.
Credits to AGRA for supporting youth under the Nokia Youth Platform on trainings in entrepreneurship and business orientation through REACT's project that is implemented by Kilimo Trust in addition to funding this documentary. The Nokia Youth Platform also recognizes food safety has become a global concern, which calls for improvement of food systems to respond to consumer demands. Amidst this, post-harvest losses are still high, especially for food crops such as maize. In Uganda, annual post-harvest loss for maize stands at 17.6%, translating to financial loss of at least $70 million to the country on an annual basis. One of the major reasons for high post-harvest losses in maize is use of poor and rudimentary post-harvest practices and equipment. Shelling of maize is a critical post-harvest stage, which leads to significant losses. The traditional process of shelling maize, mainly done by women and children, is punctuated by so much hustle. From the toil of the harvest to the strain in pounding the maize, which leads to grain breakage and contamination, increasing consumer susceptibility to food insecurity and health risks such as aflatoxins. Furthermore, traditional shelling of maize increases work burden for women, since they are also responsible for household chores. In Mayuga town, eastern Uganda, Mr. Munyangera, a local fabricator of agricultural equipment, has developed different prototypes to help farmers reduce post-harvest losses in maize.
Samigo nyina byali bikuba ebirala byali bimenya kasooli bizitowa okukijja wano okukitwala mu kifo ekirala nga tekisoboka kizitowa. Abamu babagamba nga weetige kasooli omuleete wano omukubire wano, kitasoboka. Kasooli bamukubira mu nnimiro abasinga obungi. Twatandikira ku byuma ebitono ennyo ebyokunyola ekisooli ekimu ekimu, ne tudda ku byuma ebigirira nga bikolebwa nga byakusitula. Tudda ku byuma ebitutegako emipiira, ekyuma kino eky'emipiira bwe nasobola okukisika n'abawo obuzibu awo okukisika nga ensozi zikalubiriza abalimi baŋŋamba nti bayiizeeyo ekyuma kisobola okwetambuza.
The motorized maize sheller is designed with a number of features.
Kati mashini eno erina emipiira esatu, erina accelerator, lever, eri manual, tugita clutch gear, erina brake, erina guard, eno sheera, eriko faani, eriko n'afulumira ebikongoliro, wano wali system ya gear egitambuza gyetuyandiyise nga gearbox, eno engine egitambuza eri horsepower 16.
Can do other work when the season of shedding is over. They can fetch water, they can carry some bags of produce from the farm home.
Quality, we have sorted it out by proper shelling of maize, proper post-harvest handling, whereby no maize is allowed to be on the ground, otherwise you bring aflatoxin. These machines have become a source of income to our society.
This quality of the maize is a product of shellers as well. So this type of the maize is different from the other one which we get from these other traders. As you see the quality, they differ. If you have a look at this one from these other farmers, is different from this one.
Ever since I joined the cooperative, where there is a good sheller, within a thing of an eye, I shell like 100 bags within one day. And this has helped me as a mother. The time I would spend on the other side looking for how to shell the maize, this time I'm giving it to the children because I use less time.
House that I have 4 shellers, they have helped most of the youth around here are employed and they are earning at least per season. I have managed to give 16 youths to work on those sharing services, and actually, approximately each can earn like 750,000 in like 8 weeks. I can earn at least 10 million net from those sellers.
Efforts for scale-up of this technology should also look into
Kakati nkubira omulanga ba development partners okujja okutuyamba okugyongeramu machinery teziyamba okusala amabaati ago, okugaweta, okuwomola ebituli, okusala shafta, byonna tuba tubyetaaga.
Munyegera is a typical example that local innovators can also compete with imports. Such manufacturers need to be supported to address the challenges that stop them from reaching to scale. But most importantly, we need to come up with special financing models that can enable you to access these technologies and create jobs for them.
a gratitude of thanks to AGRA through its REACTS project that is implemented by Kilimo Trust for popularizing this technology among farmers and village agropreneurs for increased adoption, in addition to funding this documentary. Uganda Uganda has one of the youngest populations in the world, with 78% under the age of 30 years, with 13.3% youth unemployment rate, which is one of the highest in the world. Apart from unemployment, the country is faced with youth underemployment. Agriculture, being the main economic stay for the country, has a potential to reduce poverty by 2.5 times, more than any other sector. However, youths are not attracted to the sector because of the poor agricultural image. Low returns, limited access to productive assets such as land, inputs, information and technology, finance and markets, mismatch between sector skills requirements,
Good afternoon, our valued participants, panelists, or protocols observed. Welcome to this second day of our webinar, titled the National Cross-Border Agricultural Trade Facilitation for SMEs, which include cooperatives, and basically sharing the lessons that we have learned from the just concluded React2 program. My name is Lilian Gidinji. I will be your moderator today. And I'm not alone. I am joined by Anthony Mugambi, with whom we'll be moderating the event today. Anthony, please. Great. As Anthony organizes himself to come on air, I once again thank you for making time for this webinar. The ones who are joining today, you are very welcome. For the ones who are with us for the second day, special welcome for, again, developing interest in hearing what we have to share for the second day. I am wishing all of us wonderful deliberations where we'll now conclude the lessons that indeed we have learned from the Reacts program. Again, if you are not very familiar with the React2 program that just concluded, the React2 program, Reacts mean Regional East African Trading Depots, 2, the second phase, a project that was funded by AGRA and that was implemented by Kilimo Trust in 3 countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, which had a very ambitious goal of increasing incomes by 20% of more than 300,000 farmers, 40% of whom were women. And this was supposed to be achieved through operationalizing the different market outlets that are there in the East African region for agricultural commodities, and basically strengthening these markets, but also improving coordination and efficiencies, bringing the various stakeholders that are there in the agricultural sector to work together to make that a reality. So the project was closed on the 31st of March this year. And to mark that closing was a closeout event that was held on the 14th of this month in Kampala, Uganda. It was a physical and an online event, a hybrid one. And this webinar is a follow-up to the closeout event because AGRA and Kilimo Trust felt that it was important to widely share the lessons that we have learned and also get to hear from you. And without much ado, I now want to welcome Patrick Muganga. Patrick Muganga was the Reacts team leader, and he works with Kilimo Trust to give his opening remarks. Patrick?
Thank you so much, moderator. Can you hear me?
Very well, Patrick.
Yeah, sorry, my video cannot come on. We are having a few technological glitch, but I'll proceed to give remarks on behalf of the CEO, Kilimo Trust, and the whole management of Kilimo Trust and the board. First of all, I welcome everyone on this webinar. I've seen representation from USAID mission in Uganda. I've seen representation from various government agencies, other development partners, and also seen representation from, just a minute, sorry. Oh, good, it has come. Yes, hopefully now you can see me.
Patrick, we can see you and we can hear you loud and clear. Please carry on.
Okay,
thank you.
Yeah, let me repeat my remarks. I welcome everyone on this webinar. I recognize the presence of different representatives from government ministries, from development partners, including USAID. I welcome the leadership of AGRA, which is well represented. We are excited that we have you on this platform today to share what we've learned over time with the Reacts2 platform project. We are humbled that you've spared time to be with us. Today is the second day of the 2-day series. And yesterday we had very interesting discussions. And we believe today will be the climax of what we started yesterday. And we open doors for more collaborations and partnerships with most of you. I want to recognize the partners that we've worked with on this project, the farmer cooperatives, the market off-takers, providers of technology services, financial institutions, including government ministries that we've worked with. So we don't take it for granted that you are able to work with us to jointly implement these projects. But most importantly, we want to recognize the input by AGRA through the funding that they extended to Kilimo Trust. So kindly feel free to engage in the discussions through the chat, but also we'll have an open discussion later in the day to see how we bring and sum this up together. I hand over back to the moderator. I wish you fruitful deliberations. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Patrick, so much for those opening remarks. And we'll dive further. Ladies and gentlemen, the way we are sharing the lessons and the way we'll be engaging today, just like we did yesterday, is through a panel discussion. And I have the pleasure of introducing the panelists to you today. And the first one is Ms. Rona Serwada. Ms. Rona is an expert in regional integration from the Ministry of the East African Community Affairs here in Uganda. Ms. Rona is an expert in international relations and has been the forefront of championing the multi-sectoral coordination under the Reacts2 steering committee. As I mentioned earlier, that one of the objectives of this project was to improve coordination and bringing together various stakeholders to really work towards making the cross-border markets that are available work. And this was done within a framework of a steering committee. The second panelist is, to many of us, does not need much of introduction. His name is Godfrey Mayambala. Godfrey is the chair of the Network of Producer and Exporters of Uganda, a relatively new outfit that came together in an opportunistic manner to take advantage again of the available market for grain that is in Kenya. NUPEU, as it's fondly regarded as, brings together 30 SMEs, especially cooperatives, who are interested in trading across the borders. He has vast experience running successful business-oriented farm organizations. Specifically, he is the chair of one called ZAPTA, which is located in the Luwero district in Uganda for the last 10 years. He champions engagement of youth in agriculture, and he is and still and has been a youth who has been very passionate in showing the youth the way of making decent incomes in the various value chains that are prominent in Uganda. among which is maize, rice, and beans. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce Andrew Gashaija. Mr. Gashaija is the current officer in charge of Kilimo Trust Rwanda country office and the team leader for a project known as the Rural Youth Employment Support, the RES project in Rwanda. He joined Kilimo Trust 10 years ago and has been instrumental in designing and implementation of national and regional donor-funded agricultural projects in East Africa. He was also the focal person and technical person for React2 in Rwanda, among others. Andrew brings such experience such as building partnerships to leverage institutional strengths for increased value chain coordination and expanded access to national and international markets for various agricultural commodities. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Paul Kimurto. Professor Kimurto is an associate professor of crop physiology and breeding and director of Agroscience Park Innovation Center in Egerton University in Kenya. Professor Kimurto is the founding director of Agroscience Park and the head of Egerton University Seed Unit. He's also a team leader in Seeds of Gold communication platform. And he has experience for the last 15 years in academia and research. He has authored several publications in biotechnology, molecular biology, breeding, climate change, and resilience. He is a member of the World Bank funded African Center of Excellence in Sustainable Agriculture and Agribusiness Management, CISAM, based at Egerton University. Ladies and gentlemen, I now introduce another panelist by the name of Kayumba John. Kayumba John is the regional station manager for the Rwanda Agricultural and Animal Resources Development Board, otherwise known as RAB. He heads the RAB activities in 3 districts in the South Province of Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Elvis G. Rema, another panelist. Elvis Rema is the CEO of Best in Rwanda Group, BRG, who is also an upcoming exporter of dry beans in Rwanda, who is currently taking advantage of the available markets in the European market. I also introduce Mr. Leonidas Udirashibuja. Forgive me if I do not pronounce your name very correctly, my apologies. Leonidas is an agronomist at Korimaru Cooperative involved in rice production in Rwanda. Ladies and gentlemen, rice was one of the commodities of focus under the React2 project in Rwanda. Leonidas has worked with rice farmers to adopt rice demanding varieties, and we will get to know more about why we have him in this panel. So ladies and gentlemen, those are our panelists today. There are 7 in total, and each will be handling different topics. Yesterday we also had topics that we covered, and today, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 which are falling under the second series, the streamlining of agricultural research to respond to market is the first one. And Anthony Mugambi, are you with us now? My co-moderator, you could say hi to our participants.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you, Lillian. I'm here. Sorry, I had some challenges with the internet, but now I think I'm back on board. Thank you, Lillian.
Thank you, Anthony. We are glad you have gotten sorted out, and you are welcome. And I will call upon you immediately. I will bombard you, even without you taking a breather, and call upon you to take over the program for now. Anthony, you're muted, I think. We can't hear you.
Thank you very much, Lillian, and thank you for taking up my space when I had the internet glitch. And to our panelists, our esteemed participants, a very good afternoon. My name is Kilimo Trust Kenya, and a value chains development expert with Kilimo Trust. And I'm happy to have you today for these discussions that started yesterday. Now we are in the second and final series of our webinar. And without further ado, I will engage our first panelist, who also happens to be my counterpart in Rwanda. That is Andrew Gashaija. And we would want to hear from him because basically the first topic of today in our series is streamlining agricultural research to respond to markets. And talking of agricultural research, you cannot talk about agricultural research without mentioning things by all means, or the various varieties for the various value chains that we engage in. So Andrew Gashaija, using a Rwanda rice sector as an example, how big would you say is a mismatch between the varieties being promoted by the research and what is demanded by the markets? Over to you, Andrew. Andrew Gashaija, over to you. Hello, Andrew. Andrew, are you there? Andrew, we can hear you now, but there is a lot of noise. Hello? Andrew? Hello, Andrew, are you sorted now? All right, I think as Andrew sorts himself with the internet glitch that he's experiencing, I think we could quickly have to hear from, hello? We could actually quickly hear from Elvis, who is an exporter, and would want to hear from him about why is it that they feel that it is important to have research seed companies working together, basically to have a market-driven varietal demand. Elvis, we could hear from you as we wait to hear from Andrew about the market gap that exists currently. Elvis? Hello? Elvis, are you there?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you very well now.
Okay. Thank you so much. I'm Elvis Wema. I'm a CEO of Blessing Water Group. It's an exporting company of premium grade of dry beans. I thank you for having me in this webinar. So as you have asked an important question, actually, from my side, the value chain, the bean value chain actually should be driven by the market demand in a positive way. Many times, as I've seen in my short experience, we have always expected to have the researchers and other actors in the value chain to drive this sector, this value chain. But it's really important to have all the activities in the value chain based on the market demand. So it brings this value chain more dynamic, and also it responds to a sustainable sourcing for the off-takers, also for the producers and researchers. It creates a sustainable supply chain. So let's say that when actually as a researcher, is going to make his research on a certain variety, and he doesn't know exactly, he doesn't have metrics on the varieties which are demanded by either some consumers or another kind of market, either regional or international. It makes very hard his work, and he can't focus. He doesn't know when to respond. Let's take an example of the farmer. When a farmer doesn't know if what is when he's going to sell, or what is going to sell to who, or when, or which kind of variety is going to produce in order to have a good market, it makes also his life so difficult and his career as well. So in an opposite way, making this brief, it's better to first know what the market wants, which kind of variety. So then from that, the researcher, the bean producer, the farmer, we know exactly what he's going to focus on. So that it will respond, it will give a positive impact in this value chain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis. And we want to hear, to get a confirmation from Andrew, whether he's been able to sort out the technological challenges that he had. So Elvis, let me ask you about, in terms of varieties that you also import from across the borders. How have they served you in the local markets? And how would you prefer that they are actually domesticated for local production? Elvis.
Thank you so much. That's a very good question. The time I started this business, I started with a demand of yellow type, which in Uganda they call, I think, narrow 3, if I remember well. In Kenya, it's always, I think, because also yellow bean, dry bean. So the time I started doing this business, I faced the challenge of getting the produce with good quality, because my target is premium grade. It's not a mixture of varieties, just single variety with premium quality. So some varieties here, they were breeded, they were produced, but I came up with that yellow type with huge demand. So it was a challenge for me to get the certified seeds, then to procure them, then to share with, to give them to the farmers, maybe to produce them for me, in order to have good grains. So by chance, I've got to partner with the Kilimo Trust through the REACT2 project, from which I'm thankful for partnering with me. So we came up with another approach, production approach, which was done through the consortium. So we just grouped different actors, seed multipliers, farmer cooperatives, agro dealers, but with the support of the government as well, which is Rwanda Agriculture Board, the BIL program. They have supported us in introducing our yellow type seeds in a way which is not really formal. We had to take our home set seeds from the farmers, sort them, then give them to the seed multiplier. Then he has multiplied them, and it was successful. We have also tried those approaches through different
production scheme of the company. So it was really successful. So getting that, knowing what you want, knowing what the market wants, it's easy also to go to the production of the seeds. So other varieties rather than yellow type, which are mostly export. Also, there is a good will, and the seed multipliers are there as well. We are in partnership as well with different seed multipliers of other types, and it is working well. It makes this more dynamic, as they know which type of seed they are going to produce, and also the farmers, they know which type, they know for which client are going to produce for their grains. So it is really successful so far, so good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis. I think it's good to hear that there is some very good progress made on that front. And I'm now informed that Andrew is back with us. Kindly, Andrew, tell us about the current situation, particularly in Rwanda, with regard to what is the varieties demanded by the market, or the attributes of the various research. Is there a mismatch? Maybe we could hear from you. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I don't know if you can hear me.
Loud and clear. Kindly carry on.
Okay, great. Thank you. And thank you, everyone. Andrew Gashaija from Kilimo Trust Rwanda office. I'm very happy that everyone has managed to log in. Sometimes Zoom can have a challenge. Right now, I'm using my phone. I tried with my laptop. I don't know what happened today. Just a little bit of sharing of experience, the mismatches. I think, as my colleague has just mentioned, although he comes from the beans sector, but even in the rice subsector, it was actually the same thing. I remember when we came in, this challenge of mismatch we had. I remember there's even just one place where we went, and there were close to 2,000 tons of paddy that was stuck in the stores. The millers were struggling to sell because what the market wanted is not what the millers had. But of course, the challenge was that the agronomists who deal with seed, it's like they didn't even know where the millers live or the mills are. It would be the mandate of the manager, if it is a cooperative, or the chairman of the cooperative, to aggregate the paddy and take to the miller and you know, these are the ones who had that good relationship with the millers. Yet the agronomist who knows where to get the seed, how to make it, how to deliver it to the end farmer, to the last farmer who's supposed to plant it and harvest for now aggregation and deliver to the miller by the chairman or the manager, did not know what the miller wanted. And so it was that cycle that every time the season comes, the agronomist would go to the agro dealer or the RAB station, get the seed, come give to the farmers would plant, and then after harvest, then the chairman or the manager would take to the millers, and the millers would get stuck with the paddy because nobody wanted it in the market, and not because there was no demand for rice, but because what was being delivered in the market was not what is required. And the challenge was the bottom line was on the varieties. The challenge now, of course, that mismatch was had gone on for quite some time, until we were lucky that partners open to us, that told us this is the issue. Of course, some of them did not even know it was discovered the issue. And with the help of RAB, actually, this is something I would say has been sorted out right now through the joint planning. I would say that the mismatch was very big, despite the huge investments that have gone into rice subsector in the country. And this is something that is common, I think, in East Africa in so many value chains, that if all the stakeholders are not involved to understand the needs of the market, there will always be that mismatch. And the farmers will either be stuck with their produce in the stores, or the millers will, or even the off-takers will buy and get stuck with their produce in the stores as long until they address the market requirement, the needs on the market, because the ultimate person who decides is the consumer. So the issue had now to be interpreted backwards down to the farmer, now trying to understand the varieties that the market needs, what the miller wants, and then translating it into how much is that needs to come from the farmer, translating it into how much of seed, certified seed is required that would now be expected from the seed producer, translating it into how much basic seed would be required from the research station. And that's how it all worked through the joint seasonal joint planning events that have been going on in our different consortia of partners we work with under the REACT project. Thank you, Anthony and colleagues.
Thank you very much, Andrew. It's a pleasure to hear from you. I think in case any of the participants have a question on what you've just submitted, and particularly to do with how helpful the joint planning helps, we could have those reactions in our chat room. Over to you, my co-host Lillian.
Anthony, thank you very much. I continue extending a warm welcome to the participants that continue to join us. You're very welcome. If you're here for the first time, you're welcome. If you're joining us for the second day, even more welcome. We've listened to Andrew Gashaija, we've listened to Elvis, and they have clearly told that there's a big mismatch between what farmers produce and what the market require. Research will also tell you there seems to be a push, not so much of a pull, of what the farmers produce from the market, more, rather than what's supposed to happen, which is basically a pull from the market. And now my question goes to Leonidas. Leonidas, why do you think farmers, even when the available markets, do not produce targeting those markets? Leonidas, can you hear me? Leonidas, are you with us? Okay. We don't seem to have Leonidas online. So I will go to Innocent. Innocent, are you with us? No, I'm told John is sitting for Innocent. John, are you with us? Kayumba? John Kayumba, can you hear us? Or are you with us?
Looks like John is not on the call.
Yes.
I think some people have had a challenge of time differences when they saw 2 to 4, and
yes.
Rwanda is 1 hour behind. So I guess some people have not even logged in.
Okay. In that case, we still have Elvis, right?
Yes, Elvis is on the call.
Right, Elvis, sorry, in the absence of those two, I'll come back to you. And you've told us about the challenge that you have faced. On one hand, you had an order and you knew there was a market for the variety of bean that you're producing, and that bean also needed to be of a specific type. And so there's a challenge, and you also told us, for example, if one bean variety is known by this name in Uganda, it's going to be known by another in Kenya, and so on and so forth. And so, wondering, is it possible then, do you think there is a way that there can be harmonization of the names of these varieties across the region to especially facilitate trade, to make it easier for you to procure from regional markets beyond Rwanda? Do you think that is a possibility?
Oh, thank you, Lydia.
And what should be done to that effect?
Yes, thank you, Lydia. Actually, it's possible, but it's not easy at all, because when you try to analyze the names, local names of different varieties, let's say maybe like that one in Uganda you call Nambale, I think long Nambale, yeah, Nambale. No, actually Nambale, if I remember well, it's a place in Kenya. I don't think if those varieties came from Kenya. And also in Kenya, when they call it Nyayo, Nyayo I think in Swahili is something goes with a relative with the corn. When you say maybe it's corn. So also in Rwanda, we have similarities of challenges of naming the beans. Even here, you may find a certain variety which is similar, like with which is similar as the other one in the other region, but they have quite different names. So for me, it is possible actually to name them, but we need to come up with some common understanding, either if we need to, especially for those special varieties which have the demand in the region market, which cross the border. So it may be possible in case maybe we take a common name either in Swahili or another language, because as East African, we all have a common language, which is Swahili. But rather than that, like when I export in Europe, many varieties have common names because they are based on the commercial names. While here in our countries, they are based in our culture, tradition, they are not commercial yet. So I think, but if we keep tackling on this marketing, let's say, naming of different cross-border varieties, so we may come out with some common names, but it's not easy at all. But I know that it's really important to think about this, because sometimes when I deal with different colleagues in Uganda and in Kenya, they tell me a name, and here I tell them another name. At the end, we find out that we are saying the same variety, but while we take the pictures on board. So I think it's something we need to think about, and I know that it's really possible once we keep addressing this naming issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Elvis. From what you're telling us, it is possible, but it still remains quite a big elephant in the room, because from where I'm seated, I'm thinking, even if we are to adopt a name in one language, now at one, for example, people in Rwanda may not be very conversant in Swahili, people in Burundi may not be very conversant in another language, and so I quite agree it's possible, but where there is a way, and especially this way being the availability of markets, I'm sure we will find a way. And I'll bring in Prof. Kimurto much later to tell us whether this is actually practically possible. But thank you so much, Elvis. I am told Leonidas is now online. Leonidas, can you hear us?
I think people have been were having challenges of unmuting themselves.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Leonidas, is that you? Leonidas, do we have you here?
I'm hearing.
Yes, Leonidas, you're very welcome, and thank you for taking time to be one of our panelists today. We have heard from previous speakers telling us the challenges they have, especially a representative of an export market, Elvis, that he has a market on one hand, and on the other, he usually faces challenges getting supplies of the type of bean he wants, and yet it is grown in the East African region. So Leonidas, tell us, why do you think farmers do not respond to what is demanded in the market in terms of the varieties to plant? They keep planting varieties that they cannot find a very reliable market for. Why do you think that is the case?
Thank you very much. I'm Leonidas, an agronomist. The farmer are not adopting the market demanded varieties due to different issues. One of them, the farmers have limited information about the demanded varieties. Can you hear me?
Yes, Leonidas, we can hear you.
Yes.
Please go on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, the farmers have limited information about what is demanded on the demanded varieties. Even if the varieties are available and accessed by the farmers also, they have a limited incentive to invest on those demanded varieties. This is why the farmers they use the 10 seed or home saved seeds. The farmer think what they grown, they have a low price. Due to the low price, farmers go and search for the seeds which can give them the high productivity and high price. The demanded varieties, most of them, they give low production, and the farmers go to use the 10 seed which can give them the high productivity. So by this, for them to adopt the demanded seeds, they can have they can be funded, or the incentive for them. Even if they grow those farmers to the low price, they can have those incentives that can encourage them in order to grow those demanded varieties. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leonidas. You said something that I'm sure even for participants just triggered many questions. That farmers do not want to plant demanded varieties in the market because they are of low productivity. They do not yield much. But I'm wondering, if farmers want to sell, if they want to make an income from what they grow, from agriculture, isn't it then counterproductive for them not to grow that which is demanded in the market? I mean, they produce, then eat,
No.
and then what? And yet they want to make money from it.
No, they make money, but
yeah.
What I'm saying,
yes, please.
What farmers grows, those are needed on the variety on the market. They give low productivity compared to those they want to grow that give them the high productivity. The low productivity is accompanied with the low price. The farmers said when we grow the demanded varieties, they give low productivity, and still the price will be the same. What they need the financing them to give them the incentives on those low productivity, which of those varieties that are demanded on the market.
I see. I understand you perfectly now, Leonidas, that there's not even a price incentive. They grow this one that is yielding lesser, and they will still get the same thing in the market. So we have a problem, ladies and gentlemen, of probably product differentiation in the market. And I wish we could even get to hear from Elvis, the representative of the market here, whether that is true. Elvis, are you here? Do you think the market can do more to reward farmers for growing that which you want?
Yes, I agree with that. It is possible.
Do you agree with the statement of Leonidas first and foremost? And what can the market do? How can you incentivize farmers?
Actually, give the farmers the incentives. It also depends on the market. Also, you have, if the market can give you back the money, if you can make profit from what you have spent. So, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Elvis. We can. Yeah, go on.
So it is possible, but like my experience, I do the same, but I do the same because of the market I have. I used to lose too much money in sorting, in doing blah blah blah, But I decided to work closely with the farmers, and I have, based on the market price, I add something on that market price. So they become more, they're more motivated to work and to supply to my market, which I guarantee to them. So I think it's possible, but on the business side, it depends on how also you're going to get that money back. You can't give the incentive to the farmers while you're not going to get that money back, but it's always possible. Yes.
Okay, thank you. I think some of our participants, I'm sure, are implementers of agricultural projects and development partners. We're hearing that we also need to contribute to giving farmers the necessary boost they require to adopt the market demanded varieties. But of course, a call to also the market to differentiate products so that they can remunerate farmers for their efforts, and so that tomorrow they can be able to invest. And for me, it's a win-win situation. Do we have John online now? John Kayumba from Rwanda.
Sorry, he just called me that he's been involved in a very urgent event that he may not be on this call on time.
Right. We'll still check with him before we conclude the day. Anthony, my co-moderator, I handle the mantle back to you for now.
Thank you very much, Lillian, and to our dear participants. Once again, most welcome. I can see the number is still soaring. Most welcome. Kindly continue engaging with us in the chat room. Kindly continue introducing yourselves, your name, the organization you come from, and exactly what you're doing that is in relation to what we are talking about in the chat room. And in case you have any particular question to a particular panelist or a general question to Kilimo Trust about her programming, kindly let us know. And without much ado, I would want to engage my good friend, Professor Kimurto, to basically hear from him, because we've heard from agronomists, we have heard from a farmer, we've heard from an exporter or a trader. We've also heard from basically from the perspective of a value chain development project practitioner. So for you, Professor Kimurto, we would want first of all to hear what you are doing at Egerton University to bring the gap between markets and research. Over to you, Prof.
Yes, Anthony and Lillian and all the participants in the room. As has been said, my name is Professor Paul Kimurto. I work for Egerton University as a lecturer and also as a scientist in crop physiology and plant breeding. And currently I'm also overseeing the Agroscience Park Innovation Center, where we are doing seed production, breeding, and also commercialization. So it's a pleasure to have been invited by Kilimo Trust to be part of this regional discussion which is really very good, touching along the value chain. And through Megaton, what we are doing is contribute to the national research system, both at the national level and also at regional level. So this topic of the bean, which we were really invited by Kilimo Trust to participate in their React2 project on the beans. The discussions that have come along from the previous speakers speaks clearly that market is key. The market, and from research also, we've neglected market for a very long time, where our mandate is research, innovations, and community development and extension. But when you look at what we've been doing, it's just two things that we don't know whether the consumers will like it or not. So for a long time now, we've, as breeding group in the region and also at Egerton, we've actually looked at what we call farmer private traits. It is the traits that are going to be incorporated during the genetic breeding that are going to give the farmers what they want and also what the market wants. And for the bean varieties, the market has been wanting color. So there are several genes, both minor genes and major genes, that control color in the genome of beans. So you can see the yellow color, which is very highly required in the region. The cut bean one type, I think already it was mentioned by Elvis. Size of the bean variety, the grain size, is also very important. The cooking time has been improved for a very long time. And if you look at even work that is going, collaborative work that is going between Rwanda, University of Nairobi, and then the Calro of Kenya, you realize that there are publications that show that time of cooking has been enhanced so much because of changing the seed codes. Because a long time ago, the beans that we used to have traditionally were staying for a very long time without being marketed. And the seed coat, because of the weevils, were made very hard. And when you make the seed coat very hard, you need to really pre-cook it or boil, or rather put it in water overnight to absorb the water slowly, so that tomorrow, when you cook, it cooks very fast. So the genetics of the seed coat have been actually improved. So cooking time and the flatulence, the gas, where the traditional varieties which were bred long ago used to have a lot of gas. And of course, you know, gas brings a lot of discomfort. And of course, work has been going on to actually reduce the gas that accumulates after cooking, after eating the beans. We've also have been having fortification, that is adding zinc and iron in most of the varieties. And when you look at the Nyota, the Chelalang, and many of these new varieties that were bred in the last 6-7 years, they have actually responded to the market. The biggest challenge has been, do we really have enough seed? Do the farmers know? Can the seed systems produce enough seed? The question is yes or no. And for this project, in 2018, Kilimo Trust talked to us about the React2 project. And we mapped out where we have been working on our seed production and also seed multiplication. So we worked in 4 counties, that is Nandi, Elgeyo Marakwet, Nakuru, and Uasin Gishu, and some bit of Trans Nzoia, where we started with seed, certified seed. And you know, certified seed is 20 to 40%. Sometimes it is 40% higher yield than the recycled seed that farmers normally buy in the market. So for sure, even the traders who are here, the people who are dealing with the market and the direct promotion of varieties, let us know very clearly that certified improved varieties are better yield. They can go up to 12 bags. Some average 7, depending on the agronomic practices. So the current yield of the beans, farmers who produce high improved certified seed will get 7, 8, and the marginal profit from that is higher. And of course, they will also get seed that is of uniform color. They are the same size, and also they actually mature at the same time, and the buyers will come in. I think it has earlier been mentioned that if you go to the market, the biggest problem has been mixed seed, mixed grain, and that is a big problem in Kenya. So we actually work together to identify, because already the seed unit of Egerton had benefited from Agra project some time back in 2016, 2014 there, to establish the unit. So the React 2 project came in and enabled us to reach other farmers who are beyond our reach. And one of the highest impact was for us to work with Cheptarit farmers, farmer group, women group, which I think they were there yesterday. We had a very nice presentation from them. So we recruited them as growers first. And then later on, they became our seed producers. So we trained them with KEFIS. And even up to today, that area of Nandi is our short season seed producing area, because there was good capacity building in collaboration with the React project, Gabriel, Anthony, and Kilimo Trust team, and also linking agrovets. When the seed came to us, we processed it and we took it back to the agrovets that they had. In fact, they became an agrovet that time. And we were thinking that they would be registered by KEFIS. We thought they can be a big agrovet to continue becoming now an outlet. But yesterday you had, they have grown to be a big aggregator in terms of beans, but they have an opportunity also to be an agrovet. So eventually the project was fairly productive. We worked with more than around up to 1,200 farmers. Several, we pay them quite a lot of money also, I think 5-6 million that when they grow seed for us. One of the biggest challenge was that when you have farmers, give them a high yielding variety, and you tell them you are now seed producers, 10% of the seed is eaten. And 10% of the farmers are rejected by KEFIS. Because some farmers, when you go en masse like that, the regulations of KEFIS are also very tight. Some farmers may forget it, even if they've gone through complete training. And so it requires repetitive training to go into that high level productive system of seed, and even understanding how to control diseases. And even some of the farmers, when they're growing intercropping. So when KEFIS came, even if we told them, they say, no, we planted the beans and they wanted that to be certified, which is already the first rule of certified seed has been broken. So I would really indicate that the research is breaching the cap. We currently have even good market preferred varieties. We've gone into breeding of finger millet. We have some that you don't need a knife. Just breaking it, called snapping, because the market required that even women can harvest and men can harvest finger millet without using knives, and children can do that. So there are quite a number of innovations that have gone into breaching the market preferred traits, market preferred grain, and market preferred varieties, which they could be in the national system. So we need industry, very strong industry research linkage to deliver some of these, because we are also limited as a national high institution of training. We cannot be in the market. We cannot be training every farmer. We cannot also reach out to the networks of the region. So until we get the varieties to be traded the way Kilimo Trust is linking from the value chain, from the grain, from the seed, all the way to the trader. And I was impressed yesterday with my colleagues like Ndirangu, who has been working with us, also telling us about the market requirement. So this is a spirit. We are, as a research institution of higher learning, with our agro park, we really invite as many collaborations and partnerships as possible, because we have a large pool of students. They can help us to do some of these activities that we think can be done to support farmers. Thank you so much, Anthony and Lillian and everybody. Thank you so much for the short time you've given me.
Wonderful hearing from you, Prof. And from the discussions we've just had, just as a follow-up, I'm actually glad that it's also good to note that you are actually our host at Egerton University, that one of our offices is located right inside Egerton University, and you are our host as the director of Agro-Science Park. Thank you very much, Prof. But I won't let you go before we hear from you about what are your thoughts about common understanding of the various varieties that are produced, but also sold and produced across the region. For instance, one of the beans varieties that we've promoted with you for quite some time, including through this particular project, React 2, is Chelalang variety. And of course, Chelalang in the local lingo basically means a beautiful lady, and particularly a beautiful Kalenjin lady for that matter. But it might be something else in Uganda, something else in Rwanda, if that variety suits there. So what would you say about common understanding of these varieties, so that when you mention this variety, for instance, the red mottled varieties, someone knows you are speaking about this variety. Prof?
Yes, thank you, Anthony. We are happy to really host you. When you came and requested us that we can host you, because Egerton is a big institution. We are also hosting Summit and the CMRT project. We are hosting international teal libraries. So it's a pleasure to host you, and it's very, very nice. So you know why we cannot lose the red color in most of the bean varieties in the region? We cannot lose the Rococo, the red model color, because that trait is highly controlled by major genes, and in some instances, minor genes. We cannot lose it because we are consumers of white grain. We are eating rice, which is white. We are eating maize, which is rice, which is white. And every time you go to the market as breeders, the others are high niche market. The yellow bean also is giving the white major food, the staple food across the region, some bit of color. And you know, the soup from the beans, the brown soup is like soup from the meat. So we can have Chelalang here. We'll also have Nyota. We'll have Nambale in Uganda. And across the region, you will see that more than 80% of the varieties have almost same color, the red mottled, more than 80%. The others are for canning, like Kenya Tamu. The others are for, and like Kenya Tamu is very sweet. That's the one that Njoro Canning is University of Nairobi variety. Professor Kimani is the one who developed this, and it was a shared germplasm in the region. So the naming of these varieties, one time there was a project to really, at KEFIS, to really harmonize these varieties across the region. But like Chelalang was named by farmers in when we were doing the variety evaluation and breeding, and they call it, the way we've said, a beautiful Kalenjin girl, Chelalang, a warm one. And when we went to Meru, we got farmers naming it as Yangui. And when we were doing work in parts of Narok and those parts around the border between Uganda, Tanzania and Kenya, there was one variety called Tasha. When you ask those people what Tasha is, they will give you in their local names. So I think we need to maybe do a data log, one data log, so that some names are difficult in Rwanda, like Chelalang is very difficult in Rwanda. But if the same variety has been released because or produced there, we will need to really describe it, and then maybe the farmers in that area or the breeders can give a name that has got similarity. So that when we talk about a variety, because now trading is across the region, maybe we can reflect in terms of the name that cuts across. Otherwise, the farmers, if you work with the farmers, they will always name the variety depending on the likeness. So Chelalang is liked by it's good. It was liked, has been liked by farmers around the region where we were doing most research. And it's the same for Katin1, it's the same for Nyota. Most of these varieties, even the ones that come from Uganda, they have the same genetic background. You know, we source champlasm from international organization. When we get it from the breeding perspective, we introgress or do what we call marker-assisted pack crossing, and then we introgress the traits. If it is now high altitude area, you look for a variety that is stable and high yielding, and you introgress genes that protect it against high rainfall, and then you retain the other genetic background. So I think, Anthony, I don't know whether I've answered your question, but that's my wish. But it is always important that the varieties and the names should really reflect the farmer's wish, or even their what they can pronounce easily. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Prof. And it's good that you actually really embrace this fact that now trade is no longer local, that the varieties produced cannot only be produced or be meant for only, for instance, Kenya. There are other agroecologies that, of course, are basically exactly the same as those that you produced for in Kenya or in any other country. Thank you very much, Prof, for your inputs. And back to you, Lillian, my co-moderator, as I continue encouraging our participants to continue registering their presence, their names, their organization they represent, and what they do. Thank you, Lillian. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Anthony. And Prof, please do not run away as you take a breather. I'm coming back to you right away. But before that, I continue to welcome participants who are joining us now. And the ones who have stayed on, we encourage you to do so because we have one other very interesting topic that is coming your way shortly. I would want to, in a special way, recognize the participation of the Assistant Commissioner in charge of Agriculture Extension and Coordination at the Ministry of Agriculture in Uganda, Dr. Patience. You're very welcome. Engineer Vital Taganira, Managing Director of GIT Limited. I think we had Francis Ojuang yesterday, also a soil scientist and an agronomist working for a Ministry of Agriculture in Uganda's project. Also, I want to acknowledge the presence of Deputy Country Representative, the UNDP, Mr. Wilson Kwame. You're very welcome. And the USAID Mission Advisor, Mr. Martin Father, a friend of Kilimo Trust, a friend of Agra, always really turning up for many of the events that we invite him to. We are always very, very glad to have you, and your insights always very mind-provoking. So we thank you. Prof, coming back to you, I hope you're still with us.
Yes, Lillian, I'm here.
Great. Prof, yes. First and foremost, thank you very much for representing my former university very well. I'm proud to be with this. I'm alumni of CMI. And so you've taken us through a crash class of breeding from where I sit. I don't know about other participants. And but I still feel there's a big challenge. I usually give a classic case of sweet potato, the yellow fleshed sweet potato, which was touted by breeders as one that was going to not only be one that is liked by people as a staple in East Africa, but also it was fortified with vitamin A and had a very nice color that like you would find in the Western world that is very palatable. However, that particular variety of potato never took off in the market because I like sweet potatoes myself, and it's not exactly that sweet. Its cooking characteristics are not very good, and so it never did. And yet it was supposed to have been, or at least from the breeder side. And so there is always that contradiction. On one hand, farmers are saying they don't get the varieties that are demanded in the market. On the other, the breeders are saying, but we are breeding these varieties that have both the market characteristics, the farmer characteristics. Why do you think, Prof, there is that contradiction from where you sit, and you are involved with farmers, so you can speak for both researchers and farmers? Prof, over to you.
Yes, Lillian. I think very good question, because it is a problem. Actually, that is a problem. When we move from, when we begin to say we need to have higher yield, say now we are moving from traditional cassava and we want to get 40 tons, for example. We say cassava production in Kenya is 3 to 4 tons. Those are the local varieties. And we say we want to, cassava has got a very low protein content, and we want to improve and also nutritive content. We say now, can we get an orange flesh? We say this one is analyzed and it has all the traits. It has the yield and it has the agronomic traits. Normally, you can easily lose on abiotic resistance. You can easily lose resistance to the seed the peeling characteristics may change in the process. So the yellow flesh potato, the sweet potato, for example, I'm not very sure of which variety you are talking about, but we have some that are fairly successful. It didn't pick in the market because the preservation, post-harvest storage became a problem. So somehow there is need to relook at it, because already we fixed the major challenge. We have introgressed nutritive content. We have increased the yield. What needs to be done now, instead of remaining with the old variety that is giving us only 3-4 tons, this one can give you 20. It can improve your nutritive value. It is resistant to insects and pests. What the farmers or the market doesn't want is that when you cook, it doesn't stay for a very long time without actually post-harvest loss. Or when you want to peel it, it becomes watery. Means it is not balanced in terms of absorbing the water, and because we need sweet potatoes that are dry. When you cook it and you leave it on the table, it should be able to be very dry, so that when you take it with any drink, it doesn't look like very soft like the potato itself. So those are genetically, those are some of the things that in the process of 6-year cycle of breeding and selecting the best progenies, you miss out. So sometimes we are also not fair to research. The market quickly comes, condemns scientists, condemns the national system, and they say, let's go back to our variety. You've not done anything. Yet there is a lot of investment that has gone into this yellow-fleshed sweet potato. Number 2, Lillian, there is a possibility also that we may have achieved 80% of what we want. The other 30%, we can live with it, instead of only staying with no profit, staying with a 4-5 ton yielding variety. We have one that can give us 40. It is not good for 1 or 2 traits. We need to improve that. Because sometimes the farmers also don't know. If you ask yourself whether we have enough cuttings for the yellow fleshed, you'll be surprised that we are looking for it, just like the bean varieties, we are looking for it in the region. Like now is planting season. The seed that were in Kenya seed is finished. The seed that was in University of Nairobi is finished. Calro is finished. Carpin 1. We don't have it. If you go to Uganda, maybe the same story. So there is still need. As we demand a lot from the market, let us also look at the people who are investing to convert this product into what we want. I hope I have answered you.
Yes, Prof. To a great extent you have, and from what I'm hearing from you, that there is this contradiction is mostly brought by first and foremost lack of information on the side of the farmer. They really do not even know whether some of the varieties that they would want to engage in planting are there, have been released by breeders, and so that mismatch of rather that gap in information is what you think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Prof.
Yes, I could give you a small example.
Yes.
We had developed some very nice groundnut varieties, red and big seeded, and it was not available. When Anthony came through his React project, we took some seed to Meru and Tarakanidi. The productivity is excellent as compared to the traditional varieties. What is in these varieties? It is the color, which is red, and the yield and resistance to the groundnut rosette virus. So those are some of the traits that now we need to do. We've finished our part. We need the other players. We need Kilimo Trust. We will need people to promote these varieties so that it can reach so many other farmers. So somehow information is also lacking, and the capacity of the interlinkage between the value chain actors may also be so that the farmers don't know what is happening. Thank you, Lillian. I think we can end it there.
Yes, thank you so much. Right, Prof. Thank you so much. Your wisdom certainly we cannot get enough of. We'll certainly in another forum, one way or another, we'll get back to you. And of course, Kilimo being hosted in Kenya, being hosted with you, we can always come back to you or forward you some of the questions that are really flowing from our chat section from participants to you. We'll be able to, I hope you can be with us throughout the program so that we can send some of those questions to you and you answer them online. So I will now, ladies and gentlemen, we will take a break now and play a video on the impacts that the REACTS project has had in the East African region, not just in Uganda, where Kilimo Trust is headquartered, but also in the other countries of implementation, which is Kenya and additionally Rwanda. The team that is playing this video, are you ready? Before we jump to the next topic of the day, which is multi-sectoral approach to agricultural value chains development. Can we have the video, please?
We never had really a sustainable market.
The agricultural sector remains a mainstay across East African countries. However, it's characterized by significant untapped potential. Access to markets for smallholder farmers remains among the top priority challenges limiting commercialization of the sector.
We never had really a sustainable market.
I didn't know exactly where to get the raw materials from. I would get it from middlemen and the traders. And most of the time, we had those challenges of bagging, of drying, and of the quality. Now, being women, sometimes it is very hectic, maybe to leave our places of work and travel to those distant areas. So we would use brokers. So you find that a broker would be eating from you.
At that time, as I had the main challenge I had was about to get the premium grains, which are supposed to be sorted and not mixed up with different varieties. As my focus was about the yellow type, That time it wasn't really easy to get that type which is in good condition as I wanted. So I was rejecting more stock, which was about maybe 30% of the collected stock from the farmers.
Mu bibazo biremereye cyane twari dufite icyambere nabo cyari gikomeye cyane ikibazo cy'imbuto itanga umusaruro kandi ikagaruka ikagira ubwiza bugeze ku isoko cyari ikibazo gikomeye hano akenshi wabonaga inganda guhuza n'abahinzi.
We have a store that is a capacity of 300 metric tons, but we could just bulk 50 metric tons. Farmers wanted immediate cash, which we never had as cooperative.
We are a bit constrained in terms of knowledge and expertise in that field. We try to look at collaborators that we can work with. So in 2018, that's when we had an engagement and started working with Kilimo Trust under the REACT-C program.
Regional East African Community Trade in Staples, REACT-2 project, implemented by Kilimo Trust and funded by Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, was conceived to address some of the identified underlying issues limiting farmers from taking advantage of national and regional market opportunities. The project was implemented for 3 years, having started in April 2018 and ended in March 2021, targeting green grams, potato and beans value chains in Kenya, beans and maize value chains in Uganda, rice and beans value chains in Rwanda. The REACT-2 project was implemented using a facilitative Kilimo Trust Consortium approach to value chain development. The model is centered around market off-takers and aggregators as anchor partners to provide a market pull and crowding in of necessary and sufficient partners to develop market systems. To improve efficiency, REACT-2 project integrated village agent model into the consortium approach, which increased participation of youth and women along different value chains.
The initiative was started when we got an exposure visa that was funded by Kilimo Trust to Kenya. We wanted to explore opportunities in Kenya, so we went and visited different millers in Kenya, and we realized that there was a business opportunity to supply them, but they needed an organized system that can process and export to them grain maize and beans. So we came back and formed an association. We realized that no single cooperative would manage exports and meet the volumes that we had needed that side. So it was required that we join synergy and make an association where we can aggregate the demand and then divide it to the different cooperatives and be in position now to supply.
Even our members from this side now visited Uganda. We visited all the producer organizations in Uganda. We formed partnerships. We were able now to see the crops, mostly grains. Through this partnership of NEPEU and through Kilimo Trust, we were able now to secure a good sourcing market where we can now be able to aggregate good quality grains.
Kilimo Trust didn't help me only to focus on the side of farmers. They also helped me to focus on the other side of market. So they have been like through that project of REACT-2, they have been like my advisors in terms of sourcing, also in selling.
Kilimo Trust put much emphasis on quality. They trained us. We had exchange visits to other developed cooperatives. They told us how we can do the business, whereby we should not keep on bulk for more than 3 months. We should at least buy and sell in order to avoid the loss that we could meet in the previous times.
They supported us in sourcing and also looking at partners that we could work with.
Through REACT-2 project, several achievements have been registered. Here are some of REACT-2 project impacts.
Twaje guhura n'ikiza kuri sezo ibanziriza iyi igishanga cyose kiratwarwa ngira ngo murabibona n'ubu hari ahatarakamuka n'ubu kuri iyi sezo twahinze igipande kimwe, ariko twaje gushinganisha igihingwa cyacu bitewe nuko twabonye umufatanyabikorwa akadukangurira icyiza cyo gushinganisha igihingwa. Ubu abahinzi yego ntibabonye 100%, ariko nibura bashoboye kubona igishoro, ku buryo ubu ngubu abasubiyemo bahinze bishimye kuko bari barashoboye kubona igishoro, hanyuma bakabona uburyo bwo gusubira mu gishanga guhinga.
Iki kibuga cyatuvanye ahantu hakomeye cyane. Iyi mbuga yatunganiye kuzabona umuceri ufite isuku utarimwe amabuye n'icyondo.
We are starting from zero, and out of this partnership we've been able to bring 4 new partners, that is the SMEs and also the produce organizations on board, out of which we've been able to disburse close to 1 billion Uganda shillings in portfolio. Through these partners that we've engaged, we've managed to reach out indirectly to over 3,152 smallholder farmers.
It is through that partnership that we have done a very big business, whereby most of our processors from our organization, that is APA, and the other traders from Kenya have been able to secure maize from Uganda. Even during the Corona period, we were having no hassles because already we had a partnership with the from the other side, and we have done a very good business deals of around 900 million Kenya shillings. That is 40,000 metric tons of maize from the other region of Uganda.
Ever since Kilimo Trust came on board, we put this thing in the platform. Prices are seen in the platform everywhere because these cooperatives are in platforms with us. So most of the time we know over the prices, and once we send their money, we discovered we have managed to save so much. We are owning about 4 stores than the previous times that we could have 1 small store and with very small stock inside. Right now we are having over 2,090 kilograms bags of beans, of maize, and we are having 1,090 kilograms bags of beans.
So now we started shipping to France. So far we have exported about 320 metric tons abroad.
The fertilizers we received, we are able to have high yields. We've increased from the 50 metric tons we could bulk within 1 season to over 1,300 metric tons so far that we've given out to the Kenyans.
Before, most of the maize coming from Uganda was being packed in 140 kgs Ghana bags. But for now, as per the requirement from our side, most of our maize is coming packed in 50 kgs and 90 kgs, which have eased business.
At least I can see a lot of improvement, as much as I think maybe language barrier or our understanding, but they have really tried, and I hope that they will continue improving and making it easier for all Kenyan traders.
2 things have happened here, that farmers now are driven by what is demanded in the market to determine what they should grow, but now they are willing to invest their small profit from their cooperatives to continue the soil testing and being able to make sure that they use the right fertilizer for their crops. Now, and once you have sorted those 3 things, you are growing the right variety, you are using the correct fertility management, responded to a particular demand of a market, we consider that to be a transformed farming system.
First of all, the hope we've given the farmers that they can export. To me, this is very good. But we've also given them the hope that the cooperatives can still work, and they can work very well. And we've given them the hope that there are institutions like Kilimo which can support them to grow.
We have been praying that if the Kilimo Trust may be able now to go to another project, also do that project, the expansion of the Year 2 project or Year 3 project, is that we can now be able to increase on post-harvest management, even from our side and from the Ugandan side, and also training of our members on various issues on food safety.
Our Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, was very happy to award a grant to Kilimo Trust to handle this issue. And we are very glad that Kilimo Trust has made huge strides in this aspect.
Ladies and gentlemen, I see you're still with us. Thank you very much. I hope you've enjoyed the documentary. You have heard from various stakeholders doing business, from research, and many others, how they have in one way or another been either involved in the REACT project, or most importantly, how they have benefited. And what better way of telling the story of the impact of REACT 2 than hearing from the people who have benefited from it. So I hope you've enjoyed, you've picked lessons, especially for future programming. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we dive straight into the second and the last topic of the day, which is multi-sectoral approach to agricultural value chains development. And I will call upon none other than Ms. Rona Serwada, who is an expert in this area. Specifically, Ms. Rona, please tell us how you think this approach, the multi-sectoral approach to agricultural development, has worked in the framework of the REACT2 project, and specifically to open up opportunities for cross-border trade. Over to you, Ms. Rona, and you're very welcome.
Well, thank you very much, Sandra.
Lillian, please, Ms. Rona. Thank you. Lillian.
Lillian, sorry about that, Lillian.
It's all right.
But can you hear me? Can you hear me very well?
Loud and clear. We can also see you. Thank you.
Okay. First of all, I want to say that the multi-sectoral approach has worked very well at various levels. Maybe I should first also say good afternoon, everyone. I want to point out that in most of the undertakings, we have processes and procedures. We also have rules and regulations. These different processes and procedures, in most cases, are managed or coordinated by different people or institutions at different levels. And at each of these levels, we have different experiences, different technicalities, the know-how, the mandates, and so on and so forth. So in the case of REACT, what happened was that we realized that in order to facilitate the cross-border trade and the value chain very well, we needed each other. We needed these different MDAs, for example. We needed different actors and key players to come together and make sure that we all come within our mandates and facilitate the whole process. So in the case of REACT, the collaboration and partnerships were at different strategic levels. For example, at the level of government, I'll talk about government where the Ministry of East African Community Affairs was approached and it partnered with the Kilimo Trust. But the ministry also realized that in order to facilitate the value chain development and eventually the cross-border trade, we also needed other players to come in. So we formed the REACT committee, and the REACT State Committee comprised of other MDAs. For example, the ministry, in addition to the Ministry of East African Community Affairs where I work, we also brought in the Ministry of Trade, the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance, the Grain Council, the Export Promotion Board, PSFU. So it was a combination of the public and private institutions or partners. And the reason why we did this is essentially to make sure that at each of the stages of the value chain and each of the stages of the cross-border trade, we all support each other. We collaborate, we network, we bring in our expertise, we bring in our experiences to make sure that there is smooth flow, but also the value chain meets its objectives and goals. So that's at the government level. But this collaboration or the REACT2 partnership was also at another level where we involved other, what we call the other non-state actors. And this is where we again brought in at other strategic partners, like for example, the Uganda Revenue Authority. You all know that Uganda Revenue Authority has the mandate of the customs management, and therefore we knew that at the end of the day, we shall need Uganda Revenue Authority when it comes to cross-border trade. So we really partnered with the Uganda Revenue Authority to make sure that when it comes to the borders, when it comes to understanding the procedures and processes at the borders, Uganda Revenue Authority is on board. But more important, when it comes to making sure that they prioritize the crossing of the trucks, because we were dealing with perishable goods, that is maize and beans. And so they didn't need to be held up at the borders for a long time. So we tried to bring in the Revenue Authority to make them understand how important it is to ensure that the trucks cross and they are not held up. But we also needed the police. Yesterday, I briefly talked about the non-tariff barriers. And if a police stops a truck, whether you've met the requirements or not, there are times when the truck should not be stopped, and these are the non-tariff barriers. So we wanted to incorporate police to make sure that they also understand, first of all, the importance of the trade we are coordinating, but also the importance of making sure that there are faster means of helping or supporting the trucks to cross. So the other non-state actors were the police, the URA, but also the immigration, and any other person who we thought would support and facilitate the smooth flow of our trade. But the other level, which I will talk about, but I'm sure Patrick and group can competitively talk about this, was at the cooperative and farmer level. Again, a number of collaborations we are supported by REACT to ensure quality and quantity. For example, engaging input suppliers, farm equipment. We visited the Munyegera. Munyegera has been part of the REACT2 project, and he's very good at fabricating. Yesterday, we had Naiga, who is part of some of the farmers and cooperatives who benefited from the fabrication of Munyegera. We needed this equipment to make sure that the beans are well selected. The beans are, this equipment helps the farmers to make sure that they meet the quality, they don't waste time. It fastens, it quickens the process of meeting these qualities. So the Masotho engagements was to build the capacities of these farmers and cooperatives, but also building our capacities as well as the coordinators to make sure that we understand better what the value chain is, what is needed, what are the timely interventions we can do, and within our mandates, how can we support and make sure that we meet the objectives timely, and they also meet the targets in a timely manner. So that's how we worked very well, bringing in government and public, but also making sure that the civil society, the private sector, and all the other actors are fully engaged, and we all understand how we can support each other.
Thank you so much. Yes, please, Ms. Rona. Thank you so much for your insight about how we can use the multi-sectoral approach to increase cross-border trade. But I'm wondering from where I'm seated, what is the future of the steering committee now that the REACT2 project is done, and what would you say? That's one quickly, and what would you tell other participants who are thinking this is a very innovative way of joining hands and towards a common goal, and avoiding duplication of roles, as is usually the case, especially with MDAs who are trying to achieve the same common goal. What is your advice on participants in other countries, and what is the future of the steering committee beyond the REACT project?
On our part, Lillian, as government, And as strategic partners in this, through my permanent secretary, we are trying to put together a proposal to bring government fully on board. And the Minister of Finance, luckily enough, was part of the steering committee. So we think from the achievements we've made, and we think that government can continue to support, can bridge the gap of finance by supporting the REACT committee so that we continue, because the whole idea was to leverage on the already existing activities and within the sectors and budgets. So we think government can really support and have a continuation of this idea of leveraging each, like I mentioned, we have the different ministries, different MDAs like Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture. They should be able to budget. We should be able to talk as a REACT committee so that the Ministry of Finance can allow the budgets within our sectors to continue with REACT. And this is, if you must have had my PS, she's so willing to support and have a continuation of REACT. And we think this can be regionally initiated so that within our governments, we have a voice calling upon the government to engage and come on board fully so that we consolidate, but also upscale what has been achieved. I think to me, this is very important. And we've also realized that REACT very well is aligned to the, for example, NDP3, but also all the other government frameworks, government programs, including at the regional level. So I think we need really to come out immediately, not waste time, but work together again with the Kilimo Trust, work together with AGRA, and all the other partners across the partner states of the EAC, and make sure that there is a continuation and we upscale. We've been working in selected districts, but we can also upscale to other districts. There are so many challenges we've faced. Make sure that the challenges are worked upon, include research. The research we've talked about this morning, the research which is very key. There are institutions like NARO, which we can bring on board to make sure that the research function works very well and there is dissemination. So there is a lot we can do, and we think we are going to continue with this good project and all the achievements we've made. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rona, for the wisdom to especially other countries as to how this can be done. I am especially very happy to hear, representing AGRA here, to hear that the seed that AGRA planted in the REACT2 project is growing, and that the government is willing to run away with it, own it, and also put money into this kind of an initiative so that it doesn't die with the project. I mean, that is why development partners exist, to plant a seed today and see it grow and be owned by especially government, which will continue beyond projects. So thank you so much, Ms. Rona, for providing us that position. I am sure you are representing the ministry and others that you have been working with in saying that there's going to be some budget to continue with the steering committee. So thank you again. Now coming to Andrew Gashaija, and following up on what Ms. Rona has shared, I do know that again through the support of the REACT2 project was the coming together of the Rwanda Beans Alliance, which was an initiative of the project in collaboration with the RAB. What is your experience? It was some sort of a steering committee, all right, but specifically for beans. What is your experience with this initiative, in specifically dealing with the issue of varietal mismatch and actualizing trade for beans? Andrew Gashaija?
Thank you very much, Lydian, and thank you, members. Sorry, I'm using my phone. There are some features I may not have access to, but I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear, Andrew. Carry on,
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very happy to speak after Ms. Donna because I think she's really helped to clarify the multi-sectorial importance and engagement. Maybe what I can say is that for the Rwanda Beans Alliance is an initiative that came out of, again, this need for value chain coordination and improving efficiency to lead to increased trade. So what I can say is that, and I think this is common knowledge, that agriculture trade calls for sectorial coordination. So it is up to the development partner, in this case it was Kilimo Trust, to bring the partners on board and provide relevant market information to ensure their buy-in. And so this is where now Kilimo was doing this periodic market analysis to come up with this critical information that will ensure buy-in by whoever is brought on board. In this case, if it is someone who deals with the research, they had to be convinced enough to come on board and to do what you're requesting them to do. And so we had quite a number of very strategic partners like Rwanda Agriculture Board. We had a World Food Program on board because they're also doing a lot of buying and supporting in the export market. And so when you work with these relevant partners and institutions, of course, you have to identify those individuals. Usually they are referred, they are delegated by their supervisors to work with they are the ones who are working with us on the project, so that there is that institutionalization of the initiative within those institutions. And so these are the guys who would contact from time to time to make sure we give them that periodic information about the demand, about the value chain, the market situation. And so they would always come up with these brilliant ideas, help us. And that's what coordination is. Of course, it all started with the market. We had already identified some market through exporters like BRG, who spoke some minutes ago, and other bigger off-takers who probably are not on this call. And so we identified some varieties, which, you know, buyers come with their names, depending if an importer is in India, a buyer is India or Middle East or Europe, like in the case of BRG, like France, Belgium, they have the names they call these, in this case, when it comes to beans, they had their names. So an Indian buyer would give it this name, then a buyer from Oman in the Middle East would give it this name, and you'd find it is the same bean variety they are all referring to. So we had this platform, or what we are calling the Beans Alliance, helped us now to have these periodic joint kind of initiatives to even assess. I remember there is a point we had to sit together. We went in the markets, collected all these beans. We bought quite a number of varieties. The buyers would come with what they think, because the importer would send an order with photos and the name. So we put together all these photos, and in this case, we had to buy the real beans from the market, brought them on in one room. We sat with these exporters, with the seed multipliers, with representatives of farmers, and of course the steering committee of the Beans Alliance, which involved majorly Kilimo Trust, RAB, and CIAT, and WFP, and the other stakeholders. So here, it was basically about having common understanding of what the market, these market requirements. Otherwise, we had quite a number of meetings talking about these varieties, but it's until that time that we realized that not everyone understood what was required the same way. So we had to really be on the same page in terms of the varieties, and we zeroed on some good number of varieties like yellow beans. In this case, it was yellow, red kidney, red stackward, sugar beans. Those are the 4 varieties that we concluded on. And when we realized there are quite a number of varieties, even within the research centers, that either red kidney or red speckled or sugar, but for the market, they don't care as long as it is red kidney, whether it is, and the size they want, of course, is very specific. So whether in this community they call it this or this, as long as it comes in that shape. And that means you are increasing your chance of getting more volumes. But when you specifically maybe say, like an example of the previous speakers, maybe like here there is what they call colta, and I think there's what also colleagues were calling, is it nambale? So when you say like that, sometimes it confuses the market, and they really, you might end up with very low supply. But when you just group them in those broader categories, it helps you to get to so many potential supply sources. And this is what has happened. And since that platform was established, of course, we have our communication platforms like WhatsApp. For the first time, I've worked with Kilimo in this region, but it was very rare to see like demand for bean seed, for instance, in Rwanda, in the case of Rwanda, for instance. But it was very interesting to see the level at which people are ordering seed, just bean seed. And I remember some of the input partners we have on this platform, they were struggling. We could see demands. One posts, let's say, this number of ton of seed, leave alone the grain. Of course, the grain demand has overshadowed what the producers can afford. But that to me, that is already one big change that has happened. There is already demand because now people are seeing the market. I think one of the off-takers who managed to be on this call, Elvis, already shared his experience. And it's not been so many years since he started exporting to Europe. It was exactly during the React period. And so I think these coordination or partners coming together, everyone has got their mandate. But now when you try to dig deep and find out how the mandate of this partner, if it is a research partner, can contribute to delivering the product to the market, then that way it leverages a lot of resources, especially since sometimes these project resources are limited. Thank you, Lilian.
So much, Andrew. You brought in a very interesting angle into this kind of multi-sectoral platforms, that they not only need to be anchored within government institutions, but for purposes of sustainability, they also need to be anchored in the private sector, who, when they see a need for coming together, belonging to, for example, the Rwanda Beans Alliance, then they will finance it. They will continue investing in it, in the meetings and all, because they see why they are doing so. There is a take home for them for belonging in such. But also, if I can be allowed to think aloud, I think also this kind of platforms, especially for the traded, the most traded commodities in the region, if each country can have a platform, for example, Uganda beans platform, Kenya beans platform, and the other widely traded commodities in the region, it is also a way of harmonizing these varietal names, contradiction and confusion. Just like Elvis earlier intimated that it's possible, but he didn't exactly know the how. I'm thinking this is one of those ways, because then you get to exchange information between the alliance of beans in Rwanda and Kenya and so on and so forth. So thank you so much, Andrew, for sharing that and triggering our minds into thinking more as to how we can have these sustainable platforms for the purposes of trade. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for still being with us. I now call upon Anthony to continue with the program, which is not very far from ending in a short while. Anthony, please.
Thank you very much, Lillian, and I want to continue thanking our participants and our very able panelists for sharing their thoughts. Kindly, participants continue engaging us on in the chat room and also on our other social media platforms, Twitter, Facebook. We are also live on YouTube as we speak right now. I'm actually very, very excited about the submission by one of our champions, Madam Rona, who is actually at the Ministry of East African Affairs. You would actually think that she is in the Ministry of Agriculture, because it's amazing to hear a senior official in the Ministry of East African Affairs rooting for an agricultural project with such kind of zeal. Thank you, Madam Rona. And actually, that's exactly the essence of a multi-sectoral approach, because you can have you can do all that is supposed to be done at the Ministry of Agriculture level and elsewhere, but then Ministry of Trade and everybody else. But then you realize that what you've been producing, however top quality and everything else, doesn't reach the desired destination or the plates they were supposed to reach or the kitchens they were supposed to reach, because some police officer somewhere decided that the truck is not moving an inch from a certain point, and that actually informs the essence of the multi-sectoral approach to basically agricultural value chains development. And it is actually at this point I would want to hear from one of the beneficiaries or one of the people that are actually affected by disjointed approach to value chains development. And we would want to hear how this kind of approach that we've taken with the various ministries, various agencies, various MDAs, and the private sector has helped organizations like NEPEU, the organization that has been supporting export of produce by the various cooperatives. And I want to speak to Mr. Mayambala Godfrey with very clear examples about how non-traditional partners, basically we are talking about non-traditional partners in agricultural sector. For instance, very many people might think that maybe the police force is not necessary in agricultural value chains development. You heard from Madam Rona how important they are. How about the transporters? So we want to hear from Godfrey Mayambala how the involvement of these non-traditional partners in agricultural value chains development is necessary and why it is very important, and give examples how this has been helpful in the engagement with REACT2. Mr. Godfrey Mayambala.
Thank you very much, Anthony and Lillian, for really guiding us through the different questions and the discussions. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you very much, Madam Lona, because it's almost like I'm complimenting on what she has been talking about on multi-sectorial partnerships. When you look at trade that we have been doing and we are still doing as SMEs or farmer cooperatives, most of us thought that it is the issue of bringing maize together, work on it, and then get a client, and then the business ends there. But we have realized that there are different systems, there are different partners that have been silent in the different ministries that sometimes we didn't know that they have a role to play in our business. Like, for example, when this current ban for maize came, we had now to run to see how we get the different requirements that are needed for someone to export. Like, for example, you need to have a certificate of origin. This is something that we have been assigning to the clearing agent to handle for us. Yet it was a requirement for the farmer cooperative to go to URA and find out the information about how do we get the certificate of origin. So you can see that it just came out. These are silent partners that we didn't know that we need to work with them. And in the end, the farmer cooperatives end up thinking that trade is not possible. But I want to appreciate that when we went to the Uganda Export Promotions Board and registered there, they gave us the whole guideline on how we go to URA and be registered on the ASCUDA system. And when we went there, the reality is the guys were welcoming. They wanted exporters to come and register on the system, such that we can generate the certificate of origin ourselves. So you can see that such a silent partner was so much needed in our space, but we were not aware that we needed them in that aspect. So we thank the Ministry of East African Community Affairs, because they linked us there immediately, and Kilimo Trust. And when we went there, they welcomed us. And now I want to assure you that the cooperatives know and they are aware through our network of producers and exporters Uganda that you can generate the certificate of origin when you are seated in the office, as long as you have the details to fill in the forms. Now, when we go to UNBS, yes, as players in the grain sector, we knew that we are supposed to comply. But then we didn't have a gateway. How do we enter? How do we go to, for example, the offices in Bulgaria, and where do you start from? Which officer do you work with to make sure that you have the compliance requirements on you, and then you get through them and then see how you work out it. Still, I'm happy that the steering committee worked hard, and we had to go and meet the top management of UNBS. They welcomed us. They gave us some good time to explain to us why we need to comply and why it is easy, or how it is easy to comply. Because they were explaining to us very well that you can start with this category of batch certification, and these are the requirements. Can you go and work on these, such that when we come to the site, at least you have the requirements that you need for us to come and give you, for example, the batch certification. Then we went ahead and interacted with the staff there, like Mr. Mahmoud and Maxensia. They explained to us that because you have been doing this business frequently, and you were explaining to us that you have some of the requirements, why don't you, as you are doing batch certification, also consider to go on product certification, because it will be cheap for you, and it will give you confidence that you need to always adhere to the requirements, because this is a condition that when we come and we find you not adhering to the principles of product certification, we shall withdraw it. So you see that they are available to give information, but we were not aware, and we were not much conversant on how and where to go and in which office to start with. So you can see that we need them in our system as we are doing business to be moving on. Now, when we look at another partner like police, practically, the guys were disturbing us in the system. But the reason was they didn't know the agency. They didn't know what we are carrying. There have been some cases in Fort Portal there that the trucks have been stopped always because they don't have papers. And we were telling them, please, it was not practical for a cooperative to move with the trailer to Mpondo border to get the papers and then come back and load the maize and then go back through Fort Portal. It was tedious. And these trucks were not willing to do that. Otherwise, if they were to do that, they were adding in another extra cost. But we explained to them that as we are loading, the systems are being worked on at the border. Sometimes we go even ahead to send soft copies for them to know that the system is going on. But good enough when you explain to them the logistical elements, they tend to understand. So we think that as you are designing projects, or we are designing projects, we need to put these non-traditional partners on board to give them a hint of how the business is moving, such that before we complain that they are stopping us, at least they have the information. Like when you look at police, some of them have been moving around and they stop trucks thinking that they are doing what we call local haulage. It is not allowed, like for a Kenyan truck or a Rwandan truck to come in Uganda and maybe load maize and then bring it to Kampala and then offload within the country. It is only allowed when it is putting this consignment to cross over to a different country. But again, when you explain to them that the trucks that you see here are not just transporting maize maybe from Uganda, and it is going to be offloaded in what? In Fort Portal. Then they get to know that this does not qualify to be a local haulage. They are doing a transit business, only that they could not access the papers because of the logistical issues that are happening within the corridor. So you can see that when we bring them, we crowd them into the system that we are doing, then they get to know the complexity of what we are handling, and then we harmonize, and I think we are good to go. Yeah, I think basically that is how I can comment about those non-traditional partners in our system.
Very, very, very insightful submission right there from basically we are hearing from the horse mouth, because these are first-hand stuff you've experienced yourself. And it's, I think there's, for the value chain development practitioners that are here and the various development partners that are here, actually even government institutions, is going to hear from guys that have done it and have tested it. And you've heard how just a small misunderstanding and not drafting the various non-traditional actors or non-traditional institutions that are involved in one or the other that you might ignore how they can actually hamper trend. Thank you very much, Bwana Mayambala, but I would also want to hear from you briefly, just briefly, what you think about basically the logistics, particularly regional logistics, and working with say the guys that are in the transport industry for a competitive cross-border trade. What would you say about it? What have your experiences maybe? Just briefly.
Thank you very much, Anthony. I think on the issue of logistics, we have been learning every day, and we have a critical learning that we are still looking at. When you look at the issue of logistics, that is now starting from where I have already got the client. Almost the client has paid. Now we are loading the maize from my warehouse to his warehouse. So what happens in the middle there is that we need to look for the right trucks to deliver the goods that we are taking to the clients. We have touched it ourselves and we have seen it practically, that for example, when you get an open truck, maybe that has brought cement, and get maize and put it on the truck, you never know how many rains or how many times it rains by the time it leaves Mubende until it goes to either Mombasa, or it comes to Nairobi, or it goes to Nakuru or Eldoret. There are many times that it rains and this maize was just covered by tarpaulins. Believe me, there are higher chances of this maize, if it was even tested here in Uganda, it was even given the certificate of conformity, but because it was covered with tarpaulins, there are higher chances of reaching the destination when it has changed the parameters. So these are areas that we need to focus on. It is a space that needs to be invested in, like those partners that are interested in investing in transport facilities. We need to look for closed trucks, because we have seen them being very effective, that it can transport the goods and it reaches there when it has no issue. Another logistical issue is on the distances. As development partners, as you are planning to support the farmers across the different country or across the different countries in the East African region, there is need to look at the return journeys, because most of the businessmen prefer to use the return trucks that are going back because they are cheap compared to when you get a full board truck in-house and has to deliver maize maybe to Nairobi and then come back empty. So what happens, we have the different hubs in Uganda where trucks don't want to go. Like for example, if it is hard for you to get a box-boarded truck in Kasese, because most of the trucks that are that side are return trucks that have brought materials for Hima cement. So you can see that it takes 2 to 3 days for the cooperative to get a box-boarded truck that can safely carry this maize. So as we are looking at now designing the national logistics platform, can we focus on updating partners like Nepeu or other partners who are in export business on how many trucks are in that region on the logistic platform? such that the members can tap into that opportunity instead of just messing up the maize or messing up any product that they put on the truck. It reaches there when it has changed color. Another scenario happens in Masindi. Because for Masindi, Chigumba, Chiriandongo, Hoima, we use the return trucks from South Sudan that pass through the Kamdin corner and then continue to Lida. It is hard for a truck to go for 120 kilometers to a cooperative in Masindi, deep in Masindi, like Gukwatamanzi area. He has to drive 100 kilometers, loads the maize, then comes back another 100 kilometers. So it is not competitive for this cooperative, and in the end, it affects the prices of the products or the produce that within that region. You can find that because the trucks don't want to go there, the prices cannot raise up, because most of the prices in Uganda, especially for agricultural commodities, have fetched premium price just because they have access to the exporters. Once they cannot go and get the product within that region, the prices cannot go up because they are not depending on the local buyers. So as you are designing the different projects, we need to look at what goes to which country, and then what can be promoted in that region that can competitively be transported given the logistical issues around that corridor. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Godfrey. So it's a pleasure hearing those stories. I think we are on board, all of us, our participants. We are almost nearing now the end of this, and back to you, my co-facilitator, to take on the next step.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Mayambala. Thank you, Anthony, for that session. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are nearing the end of our program today. The questions have been flying on our chat box. My colleagues have been answering most of them. And we thought this was never meant to be a one-way, us just letting you know what Reacts2 has achieved. We also need to hear from you, really. Like I said, some of those questions in the chat box have been answered, but we want to hear from you verbatim. If the way we are going to do it is that if you could raise your hand, I will pick upon some people. We have 15 minutes in addition to the time we had to interact with each other, to also to get to hear from you. So if you could kindly raise your hand, I will apply a first come, first serve basis. We hear from you. Participants, if you could raise your hands, whoever has a question that has not been addressed on the chat box, I will be glad to pass it over to whomever you are directing it to. Yes, Fred, your hand is up. Can you go ahead very briefly so that we can give others some time? Fred, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much, Lydian, for the 2 days really discussions and the good information that has been flowing. Yesterday, I missed out at the critical time when I was supposed to give responses to some of the issues. First of all, I would like to thank Chirimo Trust for completing the project successfully, and then also thank the AGRA for really rendering a hand by supporting this project. On behalf of the ministry, we would really happy for this, because as you are aware, our interest is promoting exports, especially of agricultural products. We have put in place so many strategies, mainly including the promotion of and formalizing small-scale cross-border traders so that they can be in associations and then be able to do better facilitation of trade across the borders. We have also been able to introduce introduced, you remember, and popularized the e-single window towards achieving integrated border management to facilitate trade. And I'm glad ZAPTA was facilitated, is appreciative of this, and many others can still come on board and get registered. We are also promoting establishment and even establishing, actually, the business border economic zones to ensure to serve the regional markets better, mainly by doing away with NTBs. Also holding regularly trade fairs which are dedicated for exports, also conducting commercial diplomacy meetings and sessions to ensure that our representatives out there can be able to promote our agricultural products. And many other interventions in addition to having a favorable regulatory and policy environment promote trade. I would like to inform you that yesterday there was a question about the NTB control tool. So we use there is a tool that is on our website as Ministry of Trade, and if members could take note of it, it is so that if you have any issues along the way with any agency that is affecting or hindering you from proceeding with the trading, then you can always log in and really have the action taken on time. The tool is http then ntbtool.mtic.go.ug. Then we also have a trade information portal, again hosted on the Ministry of Trade's website. So you can always make use of it. And then also the cooperatives, really. The ministry is trying hard to ensure that all the smallholder farmers at least are formalized through a versatile framework, which is a cooperative. And it's not true that the cooperatives cannot really meaningfully participate and competitively be successful in export trade, because we have some others which are already in international trade and they are good players. What is important is that it depends on the level, the stage at which they have reached, but through capacity building and exposure, they can better do and participate in international trade. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Fred. Participants, if you're wondering what Fred maybe was talking about, is picking up from a question that arose yesterday as to what the Ministry of Trade in Uganda is doing as regards supporting or facilitating cross-border trade. So I hope participants have benefited from what he has just told us about. More hands, please.
Sorry, Lillian, I think, sorry, Lillian, for chipping in. I think Fred also could introduce himself to the participants so that they really know exactly where he works, who he is, because they might not have that background. Fred, if you don't mind, thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much. The name is Fred Himswe. I'm working as Principal Commercial Officer in the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives. And I'm in charge of a business portfolio in the ministry. And I've also been a member of the project, this Reacts 2 steering committee, and we have been largely providing oversight and direction to the implementation of this successfully completed project. Right now, as I talk, I'm at the border, actually since yesterday, Pongwe border, that's the border between Uganda and Congo, trying to actually do what we call market linkages by establishing the number of products, especially agricultural products that cross the border, and then tracing backwards so that we can be able to build relationships with the producers and the exporters. So at the end of the day, we have value created for the farmers and also all those actors along the value chain. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much, Fred, for introducing yourself, and well done for the good job that you're doing at the ministry. I am not so sure I'm seeing any more hands, so I am thinking that most of your questions were addressed in the chat box. Is that the correct position?
Hopefully so, Lillian. But
yes.
With no hands up, I thought that we have some. I think we could ambush one or two people. I saw Professor Esther Gicheru in the room of the Cooperative University of Kenya. She's actually a DVC for planning at the university. If she is able to hear us, I think she could say hi, because it's an honor to have her in our discussions since yesterday and today. Just say hi, because our cooperative universities are very good in terms of partner for such kind of programming for value chain development. Professor, if you can hear me and if you are able to say a word or say hi, would be honored. Professor Esther Gicheru. All right, maybe as we get Esther, if she's available, I don't know whether we can also hear from our good friend who we've been with for some time of UNDP, Dr. Wilson Kwamia, if you can say a word. In the meantime, we can still have one more comment from someone else. Wilson Kwamia, still there?
Right, Anthony here appears to have logged off, which is fine, and okay. So that we honor the time of the people who have been with us for this long. I think it's important that we bring this program to a close. But before I do so, I want to introduce again Dr. John Jagwe, who is the country manager of the Uganda Agra office, to give us his closing remarks. Dr. Jagwe, the floor is yours. The virtual floor.
Thank you very much, Lillian. Participants, representatives from the various government ministries, Ministry of East African Affairs, Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, members of the steering committee of REACT. It is with great pleasure that we come to a close of this project. This project has delivered phenomenal results. Actually, for us in Uganda, we embraced this project as our flagship project, considering the critical issue it is seeking to address, which unlocks all the other issues we try to address in agriculture. When markets don't work, then farmers cannot use inputs and they cannot have their lives better. And so I wish to really congratulate, first and foremost, Kilimo Trust for implementing this project in a very wonderful manner. I wish to also appreciate the private sector, and I talk with pride here because we can see real tangible results out of this intervention. We are leaving behind associations that are vibrant, that are on the go, and they are not waiting for any further assistance. We are leaving behind partnerships that are so solid that will ensure that regional trade is enhanced. And for us in Uganda, being a surplus food producer, there cannot be anything better than this. So with those few words, I really wish to thank all of you who have made REACT's project a success, and AGRA remains committed towards supporting regional trade in any other form which you may raise to us. And with those few words, I really want to say a big thank you to all of you. Back to you, Lillian.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagwe, for closing this session for us, and also your word representing the Agro fraternity as a whole. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great pleasure being your moderator of the day. Thank you so much for joining us for 2 days. I mean, like I said yesterday, without you, we wouldn't have this webinar. You've braved all the challenges that are presented by this technology to be here with us. We don't take that for granted, but most importantly, that you've taken the lessons that we hoped to share with you. And you're not just going to pack them, you're going to use them for future programming in the way you do your businesses. I've been your moderator with Anthony, who will say a final word. My name is Lillian Githinji. I also serve as an associate program officer for AGRA in the Uganda office. I'm also an agricultural economist by training. So I thank you. I wish you a wonderful evening, and see you soon. The world is very small. Over to you, Anthony.
Wonderful, Lillian, and thank you for a perfect co-moderation. Once again, to our participants and our able panelists, I would want to thank you one more time for your time. And actually, for those that have been here with us since yesterday and today, we thank you. We really appreciate your time. We don't take it for granted. And from me, who has been a co-moderator for today's session, my name is Anthony Mugambi, and I'm actually the country team leader for Climate Trust Kenya. Right now, I'm in Kenya, and I really wish that we continue meeting out there in the field as we implement these projects together. And wish you well, and a very good evening to you all. Bye-bye. See you.
Never had really a sustainable market.
I didn't know exactly what
The agricultural sector remains a mainstay across East African countries. However, it's characterized by significant untapped potential. Access to markets for smallholder farmers remains among the top priority challenges limiting commercialization of the sector.
We never had really a sustainable market.
I didn't know exactly where to get the raw materials from. I would get it from middlemen and the traders. And most of the time, we had those challenges of bagging, of drying, and of the quality. Now, being women, sometimes it is very hectic, maybe to leave our places of work and travel to those distant areas. So we would use brokers. So you find that a broker would be eating from you.
At that time, as I had the main challenge I had was about to get the premium grains, which are supposed to be sorted and not mixed up with different varieties. As my focus was about the yellow type, that time it wasn't really easy to get that type, which is in good condition as I wanted. So I was rejecting more stock, which was about maybe 30% of the collected stock from the farmers.
Mu bibazo biremereye cyane twari dufite icya mbere navuga ko cyari gikomeye cyari ikibazo cy'imbuto itanga umusaruro kandi ikagaruka ikagira ubwiza bugeze ku isoko, cyari ikibazo gikomeye. Aha niho akenshi wabonaga inganda guhuza n'abahinzi.
We have a store that is a capacity of 300 metric tons, but we could just bulk 50 metric tons. Farmers wanted immediate cash, which we never had as cooperative.
We are a bit constrained in terms of knowledge and expertise in that field. We try to look at collaborators that we can work with. So in 2018, that's when we had an engagement and started working with Climate Trust. under the REACT-C program.
Regional East African Community Trade in Staples, REACT-2 project, implemented by Kilimo Trust and funded by Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, was conceived to address some of the identified underlying issues limiting farmers from taking advantage of national and regional market opportunities. The project was implemented for 3 years, having started in April 2018 and ended in March 2021, targeting green grams, potato and beans value chains in Kenya, beans and maize value chains in Uganda, rice and beans value chains in Rwanda. The REACT-2 project was implemented using a facilitative Kilimo Trust Consortium approach to value chain development. The model is centered around market off-takers and aggregators as anchor partners to provide a market pull and crowding in of necessary and sufficient partners to develop market systems. To improve efficiency, REACT-2 project integrated village agent model into the consortium approach, which increased participation of youth and women along different value chains.
The initiative was started when we got an exposure visit that was funded by Kilimo Trust to Kenya. We wanted to explore opportunities in Kenya, so we went and visited different millers in Kenya, and we realized that there was a business opportunity to supply them, but they needed an organized system that can process and export to them green maize and beans. So we came back and formed an association. We realized that no single cooperative would manage exports and meet the volumes that we had needed that side. So it was required that we join synergy and make an association where we can aggregate the demand and then divide it to the different cooperatives and be in a position now to supply.
Even our members from this side now visited Uganda. We visited all the producer organizations in Uganda. We formed partnerships. We were able now to see the crops, mostly grains. Through this partnership of MEPEU and through Kilimo Trust, we were able now to secure a good sourcing market where we can now be able to aggregate good quality grains.
Kilimo Trust didn't help me only to focus on side of farmers. They also helped me to focus on the other side of market. So they have been like through that project of REACT-2, they have been like my advisors in terms of sourcing, also in selling.
Kilimo Trust put much emphasis on quality. They trained us. We had exchange visits to other developed cooperatives. They told us how we can do the business, whereby we should not keep on bulk for more than 3 months. We should at least buy and sell in order to avoid the loss that we could meet in the previous times.
They supported us in sourcing and also looking at partners that we could work with.
Through REACT-2 project, several achievements have been registered. Here are some of REACT-2 project impacts.
Twaje guhura n'ikiza kuri sezo ibanziriza iyi igishanga cyose kiratwarwa, ngira ngo murabibona n'ubu hari ahatarakamuka, n'ubu kuri iyi sezo twahinze igipande kimwe, ariko twaje gushinganisha igihingwa cyacu bitewe nuko twabonye umufatanyabikorwa akadukangurira icyiza cyo gushinganisha igihingwa. Ubu abahinzi yego ntibabonye 100%, ariko nibura bashoboye kubona igishoro, ku buryo ubu ngubu abasubiyemo bahinze bishimye kuko bari barashoboye kubona igishoro, hanyuma bakabona uburyo bwo gusubira mu gishanga guhinga.
Iki kibuga cyatuvanye ahantu hakomeye cyane. Iyi mbuga yatunganiye kuzabona umuceri ufite isuku utarimwe amabuye n'icyondo.
We were starting from zero. And out of this partnership, we've been able to bring 4 new partners. That is the SMEs and also the produce organizations on board. out of which we've been able to disburse close to 1 billion Uganda shillings in portfolio. Through this partner that is engaged, we've managed to reach out indirectly to over 3,152 smallholder farmers.
It is through that partnership that we have done a very big business, whereby most of our processors from our organization, that is APA, and the other traders from Kenya have been able to secure maize from Uganda. Even during the corona period, we were having no hassles because already we had a partnership with Nepal from the other side, and we have done a very good business deals of around 900 million Kenya shillings. That is 40,000 metric tons of maize from the other region of Uganda.
Ever since Kilimo Trust came on board, we put this thing in the platform. Prices are seen in the platform everywhere because these cooperatives are in platforms with us. So most of the time we know over the prices, and once we send their money, we discovered we have managed to save so much. We are owning about 4 stores than the previous times that we could have one small store and with very small stock inside. Right now, we are having over 2,090 kilograms bags of beans, of maize, and we are having 1,090 kilograms bags of beans.
So now we started shipping to France. So far we have exported about 320 metric tons abroad.
Because of the fertilizers we received, we are able to have high yields. We've increased from the 50 metric tons we could bulk within one season to over 1,300 metric tons so far that we've given out to the Kenyans.
Before, most of the maize coming from Uganda was being packed in 140 kgs Ghana bags. But for now, as per the requirement from our side, most of our maize is coming packed in 50 kgs and 90 kgs, which have eased business.
At least I can see a lot of improvement, as much as I think maybe language barrier or our understanding, but they have really tried, and I hope that they will continue improving and making it easier for all Kenyan traders.
2 things have happened here, that farmers now are driven by what is demanded in the market to determine what they should grow. But now they are willing to invest their small profit from their cooperatives to continue the soil testing and being able to make sure that they use the right fertilizer for their crops. Now, and once you have sorted those 3 things, you are growing the right variety, you are using the correct fertility management, responded to a particular demand of a market, we consider that to be a transformed farming system.
First of all, the hope we've given the farmers that they can export. To me, this is very good. But we've also given them the hope that the cooperatives can still work, and they can work very well. And we've given them the hope that there are institutions like Kilimo which can support them to grow.
We have been praying that if the Kilimo Trust may be able now to go to another project, also do that project, the expansion of the RIA 2 project or RIA 3 project, is that we can now be able to increase on post-harvest management, even from our side and from the Ugandan side, and also training of our members on various issues on food safety.
Our Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, AGRA, was very happy to award a grant to Kilimo Trust to handle this issue. And we are very glad that Kilimo Trust has made huge strides in this aspect.
Food safety has become a global concern, which calls for improvement of food systems to respond to consumer demands. Amidst this, post-harvest losses are still high, especially for food crops such as maize. In Uganda, annual post-harvest loss for maize stands at 17.6%, translating to financial loss of at least $70 million to the country on an annual basis. One of the major reasons for high post-harvest losses in maize is use of poor and rudimentary post-harvest practices and equipment. Shelling of maize is a critical post-harvest stage, which leads to significant losses. The traditional process of shelling maize, mainly done by women and children, is punctuated by so much hustle. From the toil of the harvest to the strain in pounding the maize, which leads to grain breakage and contamination, increasing consumer susceptibility to food insecurity and health risks such as aflatoxins. Furthermore, traditional shelling of maize increases work burden for women, since they are also responsible for household chores. In Mayuga town, eastern Uganda, Mr. Munyangera, a local fabricator of agricultural equipment, has developed different prototypes to help farmers reduce post-harvest losses in maize.
nga bamukubisa miggo ebinya byali bikuba ebirala byali bimenya kasooli bizitowa okukijja wano okukitwala mu kifo ekirala nga tekisoboka kizitowa abamu babagamba nga weetike kasooli omuleete wano omukubire wano ekitasoboka kasooli bamukubira mu nnimiro abasinga obungi ebyakasooli tulikoze okumala ekiseera nga twatandikira ku byuma ebitono ennyo ebyokunyola ekisooli ekimu ekimu ne tudda ku byuma ebidirira nga bikolebwa nga byakusitula tudda ku byuma ebitwatutekako emipiira ekyuma kino ekyemipiira omulimu asobola okukisika n'abawo okuzibwawo okukisika nga ensozi zikalubiriza abalimi bagamba nti bayizeeyo ekyuma kisobola okwetambuza.
The motorized maize sheller is designed with a number of features.
Kati mashini eno erina emipiira esatu, erina accelerator, lever, eri manual, tugita clutch gear, erina brake, erina guard, eno sheller, eriko faani, eriko n'afulumira ebikongoliro, wano wali system ya gear egitambuza, gyetuyandiyise nga gearbox, eno ye engine egitambuza eri power 16.
Can do other work when the season of shedding is off. They can fetch water, they can carry some bags of produce from the farm home.
Quality, we have sorted it out by proper shelling of maize, proper post-harvest handling, whereby no maize is allowed to be on the ground, otherwise it will bring aflatoxins. These machines have become a source of income to our society.
This quality of the maize is a product of shellers as well. So this type of the maize is different from the other one, which we get from these other traders. As you see the quality, they differ. If you have a look at this one, from these other farmers, is different from this one.
Ever since I joined the cooperative, where there is a good sheller, within a thing of an eye, I shell like 100 bags within one day. And this has helped me as a mother. The time I would spend on the other side looking for how to shell the maize, this time I'm giving it to the children because I use less time.
House that I have 4 shellers, they have helped most of the youth around here. Are employed and they are earning at least per season. I have managed to give 16 youths to work on those sellers during selling services, and actually, approximately each can earn like 750,000 in like 8 weeks. I can earn at least 10 million net from those sellers.
Efforts for scale-up of this technology should also look into
development partners okujja okutuyamba okugyongeramu machinery teziyamba okusala amabaati ago okugaweta okuwomola ebituli okusala shafta byonna tuba tubyetaaga.
Munegera is a typical example that local innovators can also compete with imports. Such manufacturers need to be supported to address the challenges that stop them from reaching to scale. But most importantly, we need to come up with special financing models that can enable youth to access these technologies and create jobs for them.
A gratitude of thanks to AGRA through its REACTS project that is implemented by Kilimo Trust for popularizing this technology among farmers and village agropreneurs for increased adoption, in addition to funding this documentary. Uganda has one of the youngest populations in the world, with 78% under the age of 30 years. With 13.3% youth unemployment rate, which is one of the highest in the world. Apart from unemployment, the country is faced with youth underemployment. Agriculture, being the main economic stay for the country, has a potential to reduce poverty by 2.5 times, more than any other sector. However, youths are not attracted to the sector because of the poor agricultural image. Low returns, limited access to productive assets such as land, inputs, information and technology, finance and markets, mismatch between sector skills requirements that young people have, and a limited common voice, all hinder youth participation in the sector. Nokia Youth Innovation Platform, piloted by Zerobwe Agali Awamu Training Association, ZABTA, in Luwero District, has successfully changed the narrative by attracting young in agribusiness, focusing on the most profitable nodes of different value chains that provide decent and consistent income.
The Nokia Youth Agricultural Innovation Platform combines those who completed tertiary institution and those who never completed the tertiary institution. This initiative also targeted the youth where they at least get the money in a short time, given the social behavior change that they're getting. So when you look at the Nokia Youth Agricultural Innovation Platform, it gives them the money now concept. So it matches with their social behavior change.
Olubereberye nali nga nvuga boda naye boda nenjivaamu netandika okusuubula omuceere. Olunaku bwe tubeera mu sizoni ng'eno gyetulimu, olunaku nsobola okusomba ensawo 10 ez'omuceere. Naye omuceere ogwo buli nsawo gyentwala kilo 100 mba ngiryako emitwalo 2 ng'amagoba. Era bye neenyumirizaamu bwe nabeerera mu bodaboda nali mpangisa wensula. Naye mu myaka egy'esatu nasobodde okuba nagulako epoloti nenzimbawo n'akayumba kange mwe mbeera kati.
In a season, I get over 1 million from spraying, 500,000 from sharing, and other services.
Maintenance yonna abamu abatuwadde contract eyo contractinga omwaka mulamba nga tulabirira ne tukusimbira ne tutta ebiswa ne tukulenjingira wakati we $1.5 ne $2 omwaka. Nange kennyini nina bye neekoleddemu, nzimbyemu amaka gange, nguzeemu emmotoka, ninamu bizinesi endala ze nkozeemu nga nzijjamu ekyo, bingi bye nnyambiddwamu.
I joined tree planting to supplement my income at the university.
They pay me a month, 200, 300, like that. So it depends the time I've attended. So when I get this money, it helps me at home.
I realized I was underemployed with the qualification I had and my land aside. I decided to come back here at the pharmacy to put my land into use. The pharmacy farm is a fruit and vegetable farm seated on 3 acres. The products we have are of high value and they address a specific niche in the market. As the markets get to understand these products, so the demand for them will increase. Then we also went into agritourism. Through agritourism, the more people that visit you, you are going to impact those people to go back and do the same thing. Our turnover here throughout the year, I think we make over 40 million.
When you look at the female youth, they have so much gone into management of livestock because it doesn't require them to move every time.
I rear animals like goats and pigs. So I feel that really my life is moving on, and I'm able also to pay school fees for children on behalf of my husband, even support him in other family activities.
We have realized that as we unlock opportunities and we diversify, we create more opportunities for youth to join into the agricultural value chain. For example, we have gone in processing, and processing means you get more grain. As you get more grain, then the youth tap into the supply chain. As we are moving this initiative of youth, we have seen some lessons on the ground. Like practically, we have seen that some partners, when they talk about unemployment, they only focus on those that completed university. Yet, when you look at agriculture itself, it has many opportunities for those that never completed the tertiary institutions. In fact, when you go to our villages, the unemployed youth that we are talking about, the big chunk, is in those that never completed the university. And surprisingly, when the partners are now planning to support youth in agriculture, they are focusing only on those that complete the university. So it creates a very big challenge, because for those who completed the university, they have access to at least some decent job, but the ones that never completed the university are the most vulnerable in that category of unemployment.
The Nokia Youth Platform has been able to have youth acquire skills and knowledge, and they've been able to exploit opportunities within the agricultural sector for them to earn incomes. Averagely, a youth can earn about $10 to $15 daily by engaging in each of these activities. And for us, we think this is decent. And when youth get into such arrangements, then they will be the entrepreneurs for the future. So we are grateful for Nokia Youth and for being part of this, and we encourage other development partners to come on board and support our youth in this aspect.
Credits to AGRA for supporting youth under the Nokia Youth Platform on trainings in entrepreneurship and business orientation through REACT's project that is implemented by Kilimo Trust in addition to funding this documentary. The Nokia Youth Platform also recognizes the agricultural sector remains a mainstay across East African countries. However, it's characterized by significant untapped potential. Access to